All right, guys, welcome to week 7 of the Gambling Show. I'm here with Yanni. What's up, man?
Not a lot. Rough week of football.
A rough
Rough
week
week.
of football, like for sure. My fantasy teams actually had a good week. We went 4-1. That was good. Like the theme of this season though has been like all of my games coming down to Monday and then getting screwed on Monday. I had 5 out of 5 leagues all came down to Monday. I actually won 4 of them. So little regression to the mean. Anyways, let's get into like our temperature check for the week, buying or selling panic, whatever you want to call it. Let's lead first with the state of the 49ers, and I'm going to hand this one over to our resident writer for 49ers Hub. Give us a state of the 49ers, Yanni. What's going on?
Like in the writers hub or just in general in the fan base. Like what are you most what
Just in general, how are you feeling about the team now this year? Now we're without Nick Bosa and Fred Warner.
well, dude, you and I like talk about that. I mean, come on, we spend like hours talking about the Niners, right? We go to playoff games every year. We're serious fans. And to me, I was last year we had our back and forth because I did not think they were a playoff team. I thought they had taken too many beatings and too many playoff runs, that the stars were too worn on, and that last year was like a chance to physically reset and that they were going to have a down year. They had a down year. So that didn't hurt me. That didn't affect me in any way because I sort of went into the year going, well, this is what this year is going to be. Get a lot of young guys meaningful playing time. Let Brock Purdy play in the pocket against cover two a lot more because CMC wasn't out there. And we're seeing that reflected in like the yards per game average between Brock and Mac Jones. The 49ers offense has actually transformed over the last 2 years in like a meaningful way. And then they go out and smash the draft class with a bunch of rookies that really were getting great reviews. So I come into this year and I go, look at this schedule. This is a team that can actually make a Super Bowl run this year. Because I perceive the Rams to be more vulnerable than they typically are, even with Devontae Adams. I think they're gettables, particularly with the Niners matchup. And then the Eagles. The Eagles, I thought, were going to be really good again, but they also have a lot of wear and tear on them. They lost a lineman getting injured or retiring or all that stuff, right? They lost a lot of defense. Their defense is actually bottom 10 right now in the NFL. In terms of yards allowed. So it's like, dude, I thought the NFC was wide open. I thought this was a legitimate Super Bowl year. But like they just lost a Hall of Fame middle linebacker, one of the best middle linebackers in the history of the sport, and like maybe not a Hall of Fame player, but like a Hall of Fame caliber defensive end in Nick Bosa with his impact of the game. And it's just not. It's not a Super Bowl run season after that, dude. It's not even. I don't know. Maybe they can compete for a wild card, and they probably will. They're 4-2. They have a really soft schedule. Brock's coming back. The offense is going to get healthy, but you know the deal, dude. You can't lose players like that and keep rolling. It's just not how football works. And then the interior of the O line is so bad this year too. So there were already issues there. I just don't. I think I think the window closed for this season, and I think the window's closing for like this core of guys. Unfortunately, I'm pretty. I've been like not emotionally great. Like as upset as I can be about sports, there's like Super Bowl losses and how I felt the last 2 days when like you come to terms with the fact that it's not a season where you can win the Super Bowl. How do you feel? Did you see the rumors that they could call on Demario Davis from the Saints, who's like a
Um,
top rated middle linebacker right now?
I did not see that rumor. No. I think that before Fred Warner went down, I was kind of looking for the Niners to trade for an edge guy to replace Nick Bosa to try and kind of put some duct tape on the unit. I
Yep.
mean, they haven't been great this year, but I like the way they've been playing under Robert Saleh, right? Like, and I think he's done a much better job than what was that guy's name? Sorensen did,
Oh,
coordinating the defense. That guy stunk. Like Saleh's
oh,
dog. Like I love him. But like when you're missing Fred and Nick Bosa, I feel like yeah, like they're not. I think they're gonna have a hard time like stopping real offenses, right? Like I think they probably sneak into a wild card, but like, are they gonna go beat MCDC and the Lions? Are they gonna go beat Jalen Hurts and the Eagles? Are they gonna go beat I don't know the new look Packers. I don't think so at this point. I don't know if like the window's closing on the core. Like I think there's things to be positive about, right? Like guys like Ricky are emerging this year. Good to see. Brock hopefully once he gets back looks good. I don't know. I think the offense for fantasy though will still be fruitful, right? Especially when you get Ricky back, and it sounds like Brendan Ayuk might not be interested in coming back for the year, but guys like Kendrick Bourne,
dude, on that note, I mean, fantasy wise, if you're asking about fantasy, I think this offense is about to be a gold mine for fantasy. Dude, you see that? So first of all, Brock Purdy was dropped in a bunch of leagues. That's insane. He absolutely should not be on the wire. You should go check him out. But do you understand that we might get a Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy team that have rebuilt the offense over the last 2 years to be more pass happy? The only reason that they couldn't air the ball out all they wanted was because Christian McCaffrey wasn't there last year. They were dealing with cover two shell. This was something that was talked about a lot in the offseason. But when McCaffrey came back, teams can't sit in that because he gashes you in the passing game underneath. Dude, we have a situation where like you might get 300 to 320 passing yard per game 49ers with a healthy Kittle, with Jawan Jennings, with Kendrick Bourne, with Ricky Pearsall, but probably concentrated, I think, mostly in Pearsall and Bourne. With how unhealthy Jawan is and like how weird things are with him in the franchise. And then you're going to have Kittle and CMC. Dude, I think those guys are going to the moon if they stay healthy all year. Like I've been trading. It's been a thing. We've been talking about it for weeks. I've been trying to trade for Kittle. I managed to get a couple shares. Like I think Kittle goes to the fucking moon rest of season after he's back. He's already practicing this week. It looks like he's in week 7.
Yeah, man, it feels like if the Niners are going to win football games going forward, it's going to have to be in a shootout, right? With the
Oh
defense being banged up, so that is arrow pointing up for your fantasy guys for sure.
no, no.
All right, next one. Let's talk about another sorry franchise, Justin Fields and the Jets.
Yeah.
So this team, they've, I've placed bets against them the past couple weeks on the gambling show. Check in on Friday to see how my last one went. But they are the last remaining winless team. They just put together probably the worst performance potentially
Mhm.
I've ever seen. It was they finished the game against the Broncos with negative 10 passing yards. The last time there was a team with negative 10 passing yards was 35 years ago. So guys like me and you, Yanni, were not alive the last time there was a passing performance that poor in the NFL. It sounds like Aaron Glenn's still getting snippy with reporters. There are players in the locker room that are anonymously saying that Tyrod Taylor gives them the best chance to is their best quarterback in the locker room. It just feels like now Garrett Wilson's down too. It sounds like they're probably going to sell Brees Hall. It sounds like this thing is just going off the fucking rails here. Are you interested in any fantasy options at this point for the Jets whatsoever, or do you think that this thing's such a tire fire that they become like one of the teams that you just can't do anything with?
Well, Garrett Wilson had a great game with Tyrod Taylor. Didn't he have like 19.2? I want to say in half PPR.
Hmm.
So like that's I mean I don't think Garrett, but the problem with a knee hyperextension, and this is something we might see with Pearsall too, because Pearsall has the PCL. So a PCL strain can make you feel instability in your ACL. The PCL backs up the ACL. So that's what Pearsall reported feeling was instability in the knee. That's why they pulled him. That is like the worst case scenario. And with hyperextensions, very often a hyperextension is a stressing of either the patellar tendon or the PCL. Like that can happen in a hyperextension. And when they said that they needed to wait for an MRI to say anything about it, remember what they said with Nick Bosa too? That very typically means like he felt instability in his knee. And like, dude, I don't know. Instability in the knee can literally mean that's what Brock Bowers, by the way, tried to play through that and then ended up upgrading himself from a grade 1 to a grade 2. Now he's likely going to miss like he played wonky for 2 weeks after his injury. He's not going to come back full force until his week 9 their bye, week 10, week 9 thereafter their bye. So
Hmm.
it's going to be now an 8-week process of Brock Bowers' injury playing out. And so, like Garrett Wilson, now he has a hyperextended knee, and I've been seeing him getting traded. He is getting traded like crazy. Some guy just traded what essentially amounts to Judkins for Wilson, 1-for-1 in a league. Me and Ted are in. Like, dude, that is, ooh, I am not interested in that business. And then Brees Hall, you can trade for a guy hoping he gets traded, but like, do you want to do that necessarily to pay? Because someone's going to try to charge you like mid-range RB2 prices. Brees Hall's enough of a name, and he's gotten enough usage this year. Like, are you willing? I'm trying to think of like, what is the biggest running back you would you give up J.K. Dobbins right now for Brees Hall?
Yes, without a question.
Yeah.
I would give up Cam Scattaboo for Brees Hall without a question right now.
See, I would not give up Cam Scat. That to me is too much. Like maybe ETN even's a little weird. He's been losing some work the last 2 weeks. Like I could
Yeah,
see
I
that.
would take Brees Hall without a doubt over
Yeah.
ETN. I guess what I was trying to kind of set up is I think there's still going to be value here on this Jets team, like for fantasy, right?
Yeah.
Like Garrett Wilson, we'll see when he comes back, right? But they really don't have anyone else other than him and Mason Taylor, right? So it's super concentrated. Now with I guess Braylon Allen going down, like Brees Hall got 22 carries. He was not very effective with them against the Broncos because the Jets could not move the ball, right? But that was the best case coming into this year for the Brees Hall usage. Everyone was kind of worried about like a weird backfield split. It seems like it's now him as the primary back, Isaiah Davis as like the handcuff.
Yeah.
And if Brees gets traded, right, to a competent team, like I still believe in the talent, right? Justin Fields too, I think is the ultimate like cupcake crusher. Like he was leading the league in fantasy points per game against bad teams, right? I think he
Yeah.
was averaging 29 before he played the Broncos. I think that you're going to be able to spot start Justin Fields and really feel really good about it. I mean, maybe you won't feel good about it, right? Like, because it's the Jets starting quarterback and it's Justin Fields, but I think that he's going to have some weeks that absolutely win you fantasy weeks with his legs. So I wouldn't give up on the Jets' fantasy offense as a whole. I guess like I still think there's value to be extracted there, but the team itself, fucking yikes, man. You think Aaron Glenn's a one and done?
One and done. I don't think he's going to make it to the end of the season.
That's
There's no
wild.
way. Dude, you have like there's like hit pieces coming out on Aaron Glenn too. The Aaron Rodgers bit on Pat McAfee about how disrespectful he was to him. Um, the whole dude, like the information getting out about Brees Hall today was bad. Like, did you see that thing about Brees Hall put out a free number 20 thing? And then immediately after, the like Diana Rossinis of the world had reports that he's not breaking tackles, he's not working hard in practice, he's not doing what the coaching staff like was hoping he could accomplish, that he's really underperformed as a player this year. That had to be, that's not his agent putting it out there. Maybe you could say that's another team's like insiders putting it out there to decrease his value, maybe. To me, it sounded like his own coaching staff has been trashing him to the media. Like it's bad, man. I agree with you. I think if Wilson's healthy rest of season, I'm not worried about that at all. They paid him. They use him like a wide receiver one. He was a back end wide receiver one before he got hurt. Like I'm not worried about it at all. I'm just worried about what his injury plays out as because it's weird. It's a knee hyperextension. There's like a big range of outcomes there. But I'm not worried. I mean, Garrett Wilson, I think, is pretty rock solid at this point. I think we kind of know what you're getting.
All right, next one. Broncos offense. I feel like this should be brought up because they were the other half of the dumpster fire in London. They only put up 13 points against the Jets defense that had been leaky all year. It feels to me like there's a very big sophomore slump going on for Bo Nix right now. We have not seen that next step that I feel like a lot of people were projecting that we'd see from him. And some of the fantasy assets just disappear on a weekly basis, right? Like Cortland Sutton, he's had 2 weeks under 3 fantasy points right now. That probably lost you weeks if you were starting him. J.K. Dobbins has had a pretty nice season for you drafted him, right? But it was an inefficient showing on Sunday. Um, I just wonder, man, are we freaked out about this Broncos offense in any way, shape, or form, do you think? Or are we just kind of chilling with it and saying it was like a bad week or whatever and they'll figure it out and Sean Payton will figure it out eventually?
So, I mean, I was curious because you said it, because I actually regret not drafting more Sutton this year. I only have one of him. I mean, like, so look, half PPR, he got 15.1, 1.1, 20.8, 16.6, 13.9, 2.2. So I think it's like he's takeable, outable in terms of game plan. Like there are going to be a few teams that can take him out, but I think for the most part, like you can kind of pencil in high end wide receiver two, even like mid range wide receiver one production most weeks. So like I don't really. Um, Sutton's much closer to a buy for me than like a panic. Dobbins, I probably, I mean, I've had him on the sell list a few times. I don't recall if I put him on there this week. I guess we'll find out. But like Dobbins, no, I did not put him on there this week. But Dobbins is much closer to a sell for me just because I don't think he can stay healthy. Nix, you should have never drafted him in the first place. Bo Nix was going before Patrick Mahomes in a few drafts, or like Baker Mayfield. Bo Nix was going like 20 to 30 picks ahead of Baker Mayfield in some drafts. Like I just don't. Um, I wouldn't have gotten in the Bo Nix business, and I would be trying to cash out of the Bo Nix business if I were in it. Like if you can trade him for Brock Purdy and get an upgrade somewhere else on your roster, I would be doing that. But no, I'm not. I'm not worried about them when they're out there. Harvey to me is a really high upside handcuff. Dobbins is a mid-range running back too, as long as he's out there. Sutton is a high-end wide receiver too, as long as he's out there. They're going to have down weeks, and then Ingram has gotten the volume to be a low end tight end one. I think rest of season until he, if he's injured or something, obviously we'll change our mind. But he is getting enough volume. And that's what I was primarily worried about because he doesn't have like full snaps there. That's sort of how I conceptualize him. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
Yeah, I think you're just about right. The one thing I think the Broncos need to do, and I would be keeping my eyes out for this, I think they might be a candidate to go like trade for a wide receiver because in those games where the teams come up with a good plan to shut down Cortland Sutton, it feels like those are the weeks the offense really suffers, right? I'd be looking for a guy like Chris Olave maybe to go to Denver, something like that. Like just another option for Bo Nix. Like I'm not of the opinion that he's like an elite quarterback and it was like a piece away, right? But help your young quarterback. That's a move that I hope happens. I want to see the Broncos get another guy in there because their schedule is so easy. I think they're like a locked in playoff team at this point, minimum
Yeah.
wild card. And
Yeah.
they just need to figure out this offensive stuff before the playoffs start because their defense looks really good to me.
Yeah.
I'll let you take the Giants offense because it's your second team.
Okay. So Giants offense since Dart took over, it's kind of the story of two halves of the season, right? Dart has such good rushing volume that he's been performing as a back end wide receiver one to mid range wide receiver one. Like he's had a couple 18, 19 point showings. I think that continues. He's very reliant on his legs. He actually is really smooth. What did they call him? Vanilla Vic in the locker room. That's what they call him. Vanilla. And he is though, and like he's buttery with the way he slides in and out of the pocket is actually really like natural to me. Some guys it doesn't look right, when they're trying to get their legs under them and get moving. Like Jordan Love is kind of cartoonish when he tries to like scramble. Dart looks really natural. He's shown really nice touch on his passes. Like I think he's looked like a really natural football player in more ways than one. And even though the Philly D isn't what it used to be, like, and they got injuries during that game, I still think that's a pretty big win to go in there into Philadelphia and like to win a game and a rivalry like that without your wide receiver one. That's a big deal. I know Theo Johnson had a bad week this week after like several good weeks. He still had 4 targets. I think if you're streaming someone until Brock Bowers is back, that's fine. I think Wandale is a great at. He was on a bunch of waiver wires this week. I think you can probably roll him unless they go and trade for someone else. He should have like a flex. He should be an upside flex probably for the rest of the season. And then obviously the big one, the elephant in the room, Cameron Scattaboo, player that I have 33% redraft exposure to, which I am happy about, but I didn't know I would have had a higher exposure, obviously, but I knew that was just sort of one where when I had hero RB rosters, he was someone I was throwing in there. So like now I have a bunch of Bijan and Scattaboo rosters. I have Derrick Henry and Scattaboo rosters. I have Saquon and Scattaboo roster, which is actually pretty cool. Like, plug in your round 10, 11 running back, you get that guy in there. Gibbs. I have a lot of Gibbs and Scattaboo combos. That's cool. I don't, when you look at like his individual performance, he's been performing like a mid-range wide running back 2 up to a high-end running back like 1. He has really good tackle breaking, expected fantasy points per game. He seems to have the goal line role locked in. I just do worry, like he's getting a lot of touchdowns and like he's pacing, I think right now for 17 or 18 touchdowns. I think he's averaging like a touchdown a game if you were to, do a 17 game pace. I don't feel like that necessarily keeps up, and I don't know how much touchdown production there's going to be had in the Giants moving forward, because eventually what teams are going to do is they're going to start loading the box against Scattaboo. They haven't really been doing that, and I feel like maybe Dart can pass enough to keep him off of him. The big thing for the Giants to me is I think they should go out and trade for a receiver purely for Dart's development, not because they're competing this year, not because it makes any sense financially. It's nothing like that. It's to let Dart run the offense with a true wide receiver out there that matters. So like if the Niners really do put Ayuk up for trade, which is still a very debatable thing, I think they should go put an offer in on Ayuk. If DJ Moore is by chance available for trade from the Chicago Bears, I would go and be calling on DJ Moore. Just anything like that. I'm trying to think of who else would be, like Jerry Jeudy. If the Browns would part with Jerry Jeudy, I would probably do that. Yeah, so that's the only thing is I do wonder, do we get one more body in this offense before the end of the season? I think they have to be excited. Do you think that, is that me just being ridiculous? Is that like Madden thinking? How could they not be excited enough about Dart to be like, what would he be doing with a real receiver there? And then to me, DJ Moore has 2 years left on his contract after this year. If you pay a second or a third round pick for him, you get him at $28 million a season. You have a legitimate offense. You have DJ Moore, Neighbors, Scattaboo, maybe a tight end if they draft one, maybe Theo Johnson. Go draft a couple of linemen, Dart. Like, to me, that's a real offense that you can roll out there next year and feel really good about. I'm hoping they go and trade for a receiver before the deadline.
Uh,
Olave. I think
Um,
Olave will be fun there.
I mean, I don't know if I would trade for a receiver before the deadline because I feel like that's a move that you make if you're competing as a team, right? And they're not really competing for anything, and trading for a receiver is going to cost you draft capital, right? I will say though, with this New York Giants football team, I don't think I've ever seen a quarterback change other than like a couple very, very specific ones really change the culture of a team before. Did you see
Yeah.
on Thursday night when Dart went in the blue tent and Dayball literally ran after him to get
Yeah.
in the blue tent with him? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you guys got the quarterback. I think for sure. Dart looks really good. He is playing with like nothing right now, right? Like Wandale and Lil Jordan Humphrey are out there wide. Like that's not with Neighbors going down. Like the I don't know, the super duper upside case I feel like is gone. But I feel like they found a running back that's going to work. They found a quarterback that's going to work. Their defensive line is really good. I feel like they're starting to build the skeleton of something very, very cool. It just feels
Yeah.
to me like everyone is so excited for this team, right? Like when you get star players in New York, especially for the Giants, right? Like remember Odell in his prime, like how famous of a guy he was. Like we're
Oh, yeah.
getting the headbutters, Dart and Scatterboo, man. They're right now they're the banner on NFL's Twitter. Like after the win against the Eagles, like I feel like the excitement for them is almost over the top. I don't want to say completely over the top, right? Because like they're changing that football team for sure. Like the arrow's pointing up for the Giants for the first time in a fucking long time, but I feel like fantasy managers may be able to capitalize on that, and we'll probably go over that in our sell highs.
Mhm.
All right, last one, studs bouncing back. I want to give that one to you because you had a good little bit pre-show on that.
Oh God, what thing? What did I
Studs
say
bouncing back, like
about who?
how it's like Nico Collins, Derrick
Oh,
Henry had an up week, right? Like just all these guys that were disappointing before that all of a sudden like had good fantasy weeks.
well, even like A Chain outscored his last 2 weeks combined this week.
Brian
You
Thomas
know,
Jr. was one, Ladd was one.
yeah, lad. Yeah, I mean, just in general, I think this week was a really good lesson about don't go sell your studs in a panic. Like, there's no reason to. I will never forget one year. I will embarrassingly admit this. It was 3 or 4 years ago. This did happen. I did do it, and I'll remember it forever. I traded CeeDee Lamb off his bad week 1. I was panicked, and I traded him for Gabriel Davis and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Because Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 23 points and looked like the lead back for Kansas City, and Gabe Davis had 20 points and caught a touchdown for the Bills, and CeeDee Lamb had like 6 points. So I traded him first week, ruined my season. He went on. That was the year that he went on to have like, I forget what it was. It was something obscene. It was like him, and it was the year that Dak threw for 4,500 yards. So yeah, don't panic and sell your studs. I think the Brian Thomas Jr. thing. He looks like he's getting a lot more comfortable with Trevor Lawrence and with his role. It looks like they're getting him routes that are much more his thing. Drake London. Guess what we're seeing all of a sudden? I'm yelling at my couch, me and my 33% underdog exposure. He's getting the pre-snap motion back. He was getting pre-snap motion into the slot and out of the slot. They're creating mismatches for him with motion so they can, pick out coverage for designed routes for him. I'm curious to see what his slot snap percentage was this game, but it seemed high to me. And what his pre-snap motion percentage was, it seemed high. Um, Drake London, you are getting the Puka Nakua role with Drake London in Atlanta the last 2 weeks. It's glorious. It is my favorite thing. I'm such a huge thing about. That's why I didn't sell him in the rosters I had him in. That's why I tried to buy him and I couldn't get my hands on him. But this stuff, if we see these things, the coaches see these things, right? So you just want to be really careful. I think I'm curious to hear what Ted has to say about. Ted went and bought on Jamar Chase this week. Big balls move, dude. That is a brave. That is not a. I'm not willing to. I'm pretty pro risk. I'm not risk averse in how I manage my fantasy rosters. That's too much for me. But I think there's a couple studs left that we haven't seen take off. For example, I cannot bring myself to send right now for Kyron Williams for Saquon Barkley. I'm like, God, I should really go ahead and send Kyron Williams for Saquon Barkley. And then I'm looking at like what's going on with their line, with their rushing, with their offense. And I'm really freaked out by the Eagles, right? That is like my biggest source of panic in fantasy right now. But maybe that's something you should go ahead and be doing. Like I had guys that were trying to send me packages for like Nico Collins and Brian Thomas Jr. for Zay Flowers and pieces. Maybe I should have really taken a harder look at those. I was still a little too worried in the season. So yeah, just that is something though, dude. This year, like I think accidentally we're gonna look back and like super teams might have been made off sell lows. So like I think there are probably and there's probably a few right now still like Derrick Henry, like James Cook is gonna go in. We're gonna talk about that later, right? There are probably still a few studs, and I'll leave this one to Ted. Is are you brave enough to buy low on AJ Brown? I think AJ Brown would move for a bag of peanuts right now. So it's like, and Saquon, I think Saquon would move for those guys in the back end running back one range. I think you could add a piece to ETN and get to Saquon. I think you could very easily add a piece to Scattaboo and get to Saquon. Is
Yeah.
that something? Is that something we need to be doing? Is that something you would be doing, Theodore?
Well, I mean, I'm always buying the Eagles, dude. That team, like as a Niners fan, the Eagles have done us dirty a lot of times, right? Like there's a lot of reasons to hate the Eagles if you're a Niners fan. But that collection of athletes, when they're actually going and like rolling the way they can roll, like that's one of my favorite football teams to watch, man. It's like a throwback ground and pound team, like shot plays over the top. It's really exciting. But yeah, to answer your question, I'm buying low on AJ Brown. The deal I just did this week, I acquired Justin Jefferson for Emeka Egbuka. I definitely didn't complete that trade after Egbuka got injured, so I'm not a scumbag. Definitely didn't do that. But yeah, man, like that roster, it's going to be rolling out Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson is my wide receiver one and wide receiver two, and then AJ Brown in the flex. Like I don't think I've ever seen a wide receiver room that I'm that excited about that I've ever had in all of fantasy. And yeah, it really, guys, patience is a virtue. Always be open to offers. I think it is a good way to put it. Right? Some panic manager might be trying to panic sell a like not stud that's not performing. Always have your ears to the ground on these types of things. I feel like the trades are, they're super important to building those super teams, like Yanni said. All right, into the buys and sells for the week. This was kind of a weird week. There wasn't that many free agents. Like the free agent wire is pretty bare, and like I feel like it was a down week in fantasy. So not as much here. Free agents, Tyrone Tracy. He has 51% roster exposure right now, but that is going down. He's one of the most dropped players. I I can think of. I actually had to drop Tyrone Tracy in one league to get a trade done because he was in my IR spot. I'd be picking him up just to, like it's like a speculative bench ad, not because of his role on the New York Giants. Well, because I think if Scatterby goes down, he's probably splitting time with Devin Singletary at this point, which is not ideal. This is more so for a trade than anything else. To me, it feels like Scatterby has the Giants' backfield by the balls, and Tyrone Tracy could absolutely be moved at the trade deadline to a team like the Chargers, to a team like the Cardinals, something like that, right? He's totally a starting quality player. I think his rookie year was really good. It's just he kind of got phased out by an exciting rookie, and that'll happen sometimes. Add him to your benches. I think he should be free. There are going to be teams that are dropping him. Just keep your eyes open. He needs to not be on waivers, I think. Jaden Blue is the next one. I believe in the Yahoo like player analysis, it said you, the reader, had as many yards as Jaden Blue this week because he had 3 carries for 0 yards against the Panthers. Obviously not ideal. He was a healthy scratch for the first 4 weeks of the season, but Miles Sanders is out for the year now, so Jaden Blue is effectively the running back two on the Dallas Cowboys. Whether or not you think he's a supremely talented player, he's a high value handcuff on a team that's shown that running back one spot is worth something. It's the number one offense in yards gained on the year. He just needs to be on the end of your benches. I think if you can afford it, perfect developmental player. And I don't think anyone's really looking at Jaden Blue right now. So it could be the time to get him for cheap, especially like if Javante went down with an injury or something. Next one is Tyler Algier. Yanni, did you put him on your list?
No, I didn't,
No,
but
you
I
didn't.
did see before the show. I couldn't believe it. He
Okay.
was in 4 or 5 leagues this week.
Yeah, so this was one I put on the list after I was talking to Yanni about it because I was like, yeah, he needs to be on here. He has a 31% roster exposure right now, or 31% rostered. So most leagues, he's just sitting there, right? This player is, I'm calling him the Walmart version of David Montgomery on the
Yeah.
Detroit Lions. He gets anywhere from, in a plus game script where the Falcons are winning a football game, he gets anywhere from 10 to 15 like carries, which is pretty good work for a handcuff plus type of guy, right? He's one of the most valuable ass handcuffs in fantasy football. Like if Bijan goes down, he's proven that he's a super like reliable like running back too. He can cover for you a couple weeks, and then like he has his own standalone value. Like if you're desperate and need a flex, he has, like I said, he has 31%. Like he's rostered in 31% of leagues, so like he's not going to be available everywhere. But if he is, I think you can probably get him for free. I would put in a claim for him too. I think he's a great handcuff plus, especially if you're a Bijan Robinson owner. I think it's a great move to go get him. Next one, we got the Bucks wide receivers. I put Johnson and Johnson in here because I remember that the announcers called them Johnson and Johnson during the Niners game, and I don't remember what their first names are. But the Buccaneers are out of bodies right now. Baker's run out of wide receivers. Chris Godwin was out with his like weird fibula fractured ankle thing. Mike Evans has been out with a hamstring, and now Emeka Egbuka has picked up a hamstring. So they have Sterling Shepard and Johnson right now. So Baker's gonna have to throw the ball to someone, right? Like unless you think that Baker's production just falls off a cliff, which I think that Baker's playing so well this year that he's going to drag anyone with him. I think that these guys, like for emergency flex spots, absolutely could be startable in any given like scenario, right? Like I have a roster right now that had Puka just go down, and then Ricky may or may not go. I'm definitely giving this like Buccaneers wide receiver room like a look there. I'm like, I might, if Ricky doesn't go, I might need to start someone. I think that Bucks wide receiver room might be like a pretty good spot to pick. And they play, pulling it up right now. They are playing the Lions next week, who are missing their like first five corners on the roster.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely worth a spot start, and I think that they'll probably be free as well. On the topic of injured wide receiver ones, Marvin Harrison Jr. just went down, so Michael Wilson is officially like the primary receiver on a football team. Um, it is the Arizona Cardinals, which is not great. I'm not enamored with the talent of Michael Wilson, but I mean, uh, Jacoby Brissett was like a at least decent quarterback. Like on Sunday, he gave the Colts a run for their money. I think he had like 280 passing yards. The ball's going to have to go somewhere, right? So I would imagine it's primarily Michael Wilson, some combination of like Greg Dortch or whatever. But if you're desperate, you need a wide receiver to throw in your lineup. Throw in your lineup. I think that he's a decent shout. Again, probably a no fab guy, but I think he's should be on your roster if you need a wide receiver. Jalen Coker is the next one. We kind of jumped the gun a little early. He's actually off of the IR this week, and he'll be playing next week. We thought he was going to play last week. If he's on waivers right now, he's only rostered in 12% of leagues. Go get this guy. I think he's easily going to step into the Panthers like offense and be the second best wide receiver that's there. I think Xavier Legette is mega ass, right? He's going to step right into the slot role. During his rookie year, he was effective. If you're a believer in any way, shape, or form in Bryce Young being able to deliver the football to his wide receivers, right? I think he's worth a roster spot. I'd even drop a couple bucks a fab if you're feeling spicy. I'm a cokehead myself. I fucking love this guy. He's my most rostered underdog player, 44%. Um, he's like a little bit of a cult legend, but yeah, I think he's a good player and he's going to make an impact when he's back. And then the last one is Cade Otton. This is just kind of piggybacking on the Buccaneers wide receivers thing. The ball's got to go somewhere, and Cade Otton pops up in these games where there are no wide receivers available. Last week he had 5 catches for 52 yards. I would expect something similar, if not more, next week against the Lions in a very gettable matchup. All right, trade targets time. First one is Zay Flowers. He's had, I think it's 3 single-digit weeks in a row after the hot start. He's been very disappointing the last 3 weeks. The main reason he's on my trade targets right now is because he's had the terrible stretch run that he's had, and Lamar Jackson's coming back in 2 weeks. I think is the Ravens by week 8, Yanni.
It's next week.
So okay, so it's next week. So
He's up next week. He's back week 8.
yeah, so you have basically 1 week where everyone's on bye, right? And his production's been down. I think you can probably get him for a bag of peanuts right now, right? Like injured player, or not injured player, but player who hasn't been producing that's about to go on a bye. Like I don't think he's going to be coveted highly by fantasy managers. But then Lamar's coming back, like after the bye as well, and I think that Zay Flowers is going to be closer to the player we saw weeks 1 and 2 than the disappointment we've seen with like Cooper Rush and Snoop Huntley in there. I'd be trying to like get teams to tack him on to something, right? Like maybe you have a trade that's sitting out there. I'm trying to think, like, Yanni, what's like a Zay Flowers trade you can think of that comes to mind that makes sense?
I would do Pittman and Pacheco, like Pittman and a piece.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, like I'm trying to think of more back end, just like what's the furthest back you could reach. Honestly, if you could do Terry McLaurin in a piece, I would probably prefer Flowers to Terry rest of season. If you could do Jamison Williams plus a piece, I would prefer Zay Flowers to JMO rest of season.
next one, Brees Hall. This is kind of just going back to the talk we were having about the Jets. He's by process of elimination now, one of the featured backs in the NFL. There's not many of them left. He is a bell cow though, and he could be on the trading block here soon. It would not shock me at all if Brees Hall was no longer a Jet as of like next week. I've heard the Chargers are making calls. You'd probably have to pay like a mid-round RB2 price for him, right? Mid-range RB2 price, but I would do it. I would get him on your team. He only had 5 points last week, so some managers might just be looking at the box score and say, "Oh yeah, he hasn't scored this year. He's kind of been disappointing. I want to get rid of him." I'm betting on the talent here, right? Like worst case scenario, he stays on the Jets and he's just a bell cow on the New York Jets, which could be worse than that. In best case, I think he goes to like the Chargers or the Chiefs or something, right? And this thing really takes off. I'd be picking at owners like I do Scattaboo for Brees Hall. You could probably do that 1 for 1. I much prefer Brees Hall in that scenario. You could probably do something like I don't know, maybe Zach Charbonnet in a piece to get Brees Hall. If someone's like kind of freaking out about the Seahawks situation, you could probably do something like Xavier Worthy into piece to get Brees Hall. I think with Rashid Rice coming back now, that would make sense. I just feel like being able to have a running back with 100% of the backfield is so valuable, and his situation has like the potential to get even better. Plus, he's a talented guy. Next one, Ken Walker. Yanni will be happy about this because Ken Walker was a sell for me 2 weeks ago. Again, I would like to remind the viewers that when we say buy low and sell high, that's what we mean. We don't mean, that this player is ass or get rid of him off your roster now. It's timing the market, right? And I feel like you can try and time the market with Ken Walker here. Here's why. He's been much more efficient in yards per carry than Zach Charbonnet this year. I believe last week it was like 63% of the snaps that Charbonnet played to Ken Walker's like 37%. The theory behind this right now, right, is that managers who have Ken Walker, the secret's out. This thing is a split, and there's no way it's not a split, right? So I think that right now his value is at an all-time low. But we still have to remember the things that are good about Ken Walker, right? He's the more explosive player in that backfield. I think he immediately becomes an RB1 if Charbonnet goes down for any reason. And also he's a potential trade target, right? Like maybe the Chiefs go out and get Ken Walker. Maybe the Chargers go out and get Ken Walker. Maybe they wouldn't trade him to the Cardinals because it's in division, but you know what I mean. So like you're buying an explosive player, you're buying the upside for a Charbonnet injury, and you're buying the upside for a potential trade. I think that's a good deal, and you could probably get him for really cheap right now. Like, what are deals? Where do you think Ken Walker's value lies right now in the market, Yanni? Like, what do you think is like a silly 1 for 1 you could get for Ken Walker?
I mean, a few weeks ago he was going for like Lad McConkey. I saw him move for. I saw him move for Romo Dunze. Those are probably not trades that are happening now.
Mm-mm.
I think you could probably again get him for Pittman. You probably get him for Terry. Um, you could get him very easily. You could probably get a roster upgrade for ETN to Walker, and then you can pick up a piece on the way.
You could probably
Uh,
do something like Rico Dowdle for Ken Walker, right? If you
yeah,
find someone who thinks that
yeah,
Rico Dowdle has taken the job, right? You just trade
yeah.
50-50s,
Or
that
like
sort of thing.
Worthy. I think you could certainly do Worthy. You could do Worthy for Walker. Stephon Diggs. If you really prefer like running back upside there, I think they have similar upside. I would probably prefer Diggs, but you could very easily get from Diggs to Walker. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. I did that for you, Yanni, because I know you're a Ken Walker truther. Next one, Roma Dunze. This is coming off a 5 point night. Like the game just ended like a couple hours ago, so it's still fresh in our minds. Listen, man, I was a late adopter on this Roma Dunze is the wide receiver one in Chicago thing. I think that the usage now is undeniable at this point. The production was not there tonight, but he was getting all of the deep, like high value targets. And DJ Moore, potential trade candidate. It looked like he got banged up a little bit tonight. I would expect here that Roma Dunze is about to pop off. The Bears' schedule the next 4 weeks. I'm pulling it up because it's really good. I'm begrudgingly starting Caleb in one league next week. So the Bears' schedule for the next month, they have the New Orleans Saints, the Baltimore Ravens, Cincinnati Bengals, the New York Giants. So I think he's about to take off, man. I think that's like a top 10 wide receiver that you might be able to snake off someone that like is a little bit freaked out about DJ Moore or the low output tonight.
Would you
Um,
would you trade AJ Brown for Roma Dunze?
no, because I highly covet AJ Brown, but that I could see that like I wouldn't feel sick to my stomach for making that trade, right? I think they're just different types of players. I don't know. Like I'm trying to think. You could probably do Xavier Worthy in a piece maybe to get to Roma Dunze. You might be able to do Scattaboo for a Dunze.
Would you rather Lad McConkey or a Dunze?
I'd rather a Dunze for sure. So like if you add a piece to Lad, you could do
I don't
that.
even I don't even think you'd. I think a lot of people might just do name brand. They might just take Lad for Odunze.
Well, yeah, those are the types of deals you can do though. And the next one, Ricky Pearsall. This is the second week in a row we've done the show that I'm putting him on the list. But you know what? I'm buying this kid. I'm buying him. He may or may not be back for Sunday night against the Falcons. I think that's totally in the air. But the way this thing is shaken out for Ricky looks really, really good, man. Jawan Jennings just revealed to the media he's playing with 5 broken ribs, and
Yeah.
yeah, which is insane. He's playing with 5 broken ribs, like I don't know what happened to his ankle, a sprained ankle and stuff. So like he's not right, and I don't think he's going to be right all season. It looks like Brandon Ayuk, like he's had a setback in his recovery. And the Niners just lost their best defensive player remaining. So at this point, like it feels like the Niners are going to give up a lot of points. They have averaged the highest pass yards per game in the NFL, and Ricky's probably going to slot into the wide receiver one position here with Kendrick Bourne like as the wide receiver two. I'm buying the shit out of Ricky, man. I really think that he's going to be able to make a difference for your fantasy teams near the end of the year, especially with Brock Purdy coming back. They had some chemistry near the end of last year. I think that developing a new wide receiver one is going to be like paramount to what this season ends up being for the 49ers, right? Because it feels like I feel like we know that we're not competing for a Super Bowl anymore. So developing the young players will be a focal point. For Ricky, what trades do you think you can do for Ricky, Yanni?
I think he's pretty cheap right now, dude. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's injured. We don't know when he's going to be back. It could be another week or two. Like again, I think you can if you want to do like guys that I'm selling, which I know you're not, but like if you wanted to do AJ Brown and Ricky, you could get a major upgrade somewhere else. Like you could get Ricky back and get a massive like RB upgrade with AJ Brown, or like I would do AJ Brown and Kelsey for like Ricky and Bowers, something like that. Um, I'm trying to think though, because Bricky's in that weird range. It's like what we've been talking about all year about the blob at receiver. Um, so it's kind of you're going to do a lot of lateral moving around to get to Ricky. Like it's going to be a lot of guys in that same tier. So to me, it's more like what can you put around him? Can you get an upgrade on a different piece of your roster and add him in there as a 1-to-1, and maybe you just prefer him to someone in that range? Um, but I
I
think
think he's
he
gonna pull out of that blob though, man.
I think he has top. Yeah, I think if he's totally healthy, like he could be a top 15 guy for the last month. Because the Niners have a really nice. They have a Week 14 bye, but the playoffs are fantastic for the 49ers. So, like that's part of the reason why I've been holding Ayuk on my IR on a few teams is just for the hope of that juicy playoff schedule. So it's just weird. So I'm trying to think like, I mean, I can check ECR real quick and see who they have him around, but you're going to be moving around that RB2, that thick RB2 band. So guys that are around that RB2 band, Jalen Waddle. I,
I would
if
prefer Waddle. Waddle's poised to just take off here as long as
Yeah,
Tua
like
stays
that's the
healthy.
thing. Like, see, like wide receivers have gotten pushed back a lot because of injuries. Like Brian Thomas Jr. is the wide receiver 20 in ECR right now. Xavier Worthy, Debo Samuel, give me Ricky over both. Marvin Harrison Jr., give me Ricky over both. DK Metcalf, I prefer Ricky Parasol. Um, yeah, Lad McConkey's wide receiver 28 in
That's
ECR
wild.
right.
That's too low. That's too low for Lad, and I love
Yeah,
Lad.
yeah, like even Mike Evans is wide receiver 31 on ECR with the reports that he's practicing this week. I don't know about that. Could you do T Higgins plus a piece or JMO plus a piece? Probably. Could you do DJ Moore plus a piece? Probably.
Yeah,
Something like that. That's right. Matthew Golden a piece to get to Ricky. I think you could do
yeah,
something like.
absolutely. Yeah, those are the types of trades we're talking about. Those 2-for-1s. All right, next one, the sell highs. Leading the list, our guy Cam Scattaboo. This is not anything to do. Again, this is sell high. This is not sell because I don't like the player. ASU guy, one of the funniest dudes I've ever seen. I think one of his teammates told the reporters he's a legitimate idiot. So he's just a total vibes guy in the locker room. Dayball loves him. The whole team loves him. But the world loves him too. And I feel like you could get some crazy shit right now for Cam Scattaboo. Like I'm talking like you could probably do Cam plus a piece to get James Cook. You could probably do Cam plus a piece to get Saquon Barkley. You could probably do Cam plus a piece to get to Derrick Henry. Like I think that you can get like an elite RB1 for Cam Scattaboo and a piece here. So again, don't give him away for nothing, but I think that if you're willing to cash out on like the hype right now, because rookies are hyped, and more so than anything else, Cam Scattaboo is hyped. And also they have like a bad end of the year schedule, right? Like let me find Scats end of the year schedule. It's not great. So for the next up until their bye, they have the Broncos, Philly again, San Francisco, Chicago, which is an easy one. Then they get Green Bay, Detroit, New England. Like that's a tough schedule for running backs. Like I don't know. And then their playoff schedule, let's look at that too. Playoff schedule, they have a week 14 bye, and they get Washington, Minnesota, Vegas. So like he wouldn't be bad like for the playoffs, but it just feels like the production might fall off here all the way through the buy. So I wouldn't blame you if you wanted to cash out your chips now and move up to like an elite piece. Next one is Rico Dowdle. This is more so there's Rico Dowdle is another guy who's just been getting chatted up in the fantasy spheres right now. There's a large belief in contingent of people that think that Rico Dowdle has won the starting job in Carolina. I'm here to tell you that's not the case. I'll go ahead and flag plant it too. There is no way that Rico Dowdle is now a featured back in Carolina. They just paid Chuba Hubbard a 4-year, $32 million deal. He's a captain of the team, and he should be coming back from injury next week. The best case for Rico Dowdle is that this backfield is a 50-50 split that probably doesn't really do anything move the needle for fantasy like in any way shape or form, right? Like no one wants those 50-50 gross backfield splits. If you can move him now, right? Coming off I think he had like 400 all-purpose yards something the last 2 weeks. Like he's on an incredible pace right now. Like if you can cash out your chips to someone who thinks that Rico Dowdle is the starter, right? And they think that like production against the Dolphins and Cowboys defenses are representative like of what the rest of the season will be. Do it now, man. Do it now. Rico in a piece to get to Brees Hall. Rico in a piece to get to I don't know what other running backs are you buying right now? Like maybe Rico in a piece to get to Bucky, right? Maybe the Bucky manager's freaking out. Rico in a piece to get to
Kyron.
oh yeah, Kyron.
Kyron's
Yeah, I'd do that.
purchasable.
Yeah.
Yep.
I feel like the window's going to close here pretty soon on this one though, because I think when Chuba's back, it's going to be revealed that it is not Rico Dowdle's job to lose. So do with that information what you will, but move fast if you want to sell it. Next one is Jalen Warren. So the Steelers just came back from their bye, which is good. And Jalen Warren averaged 5 yards a carry, which is by far his best rushing output of the year. The reason he's on my sell list though is because he gave up all of the passing work in the backfield to Kenny Gainwell. He did not get any targets out of the backfield last week, and Caleb Johnson mixed in too. Caleb Johnson got another 6 carries. So it feels like after the bye, the Steelers have said this is a committee that like Jalen Warren is the A side of, which I mean, I'm not necessarily out on the committee, but because he's not getting the passing down work, like I think this is a flex player. I think this is a flex player to high end bench piece. I would be coupling him together. Maybe you could put Rico and Jalen Warren together to get to like a an RB2 and or an RB1 on your roster, that sort of stuff. Next one, DeAndre Swift. He just won me like 2 games this week. Huge output coming off the bye. This is just like if you want to cash out, like if you want to cash out and add him to another piece to get to like an elite running back, right? Like for the vast majority of the year, DeAndre Swift has been inefficient with his touches. There is some worry that Kyle Manungai, the 7th round rookie, might be in danger of taking his job. I feel like the performance tonight probably delayed that a couple of weeks if it was going to happen. But listen, it's like anywhere from 11 to 15 carries a game on the Chicago Bears plus like 3 or 4 targets. Like it's worth something, but if you can like couple him together off the big week and trade up to something big, then I think it's worth a shout. I don't know if I feel like we've been just giving you the same trade scenarios the entire time, so I won't give you another one, but do with that information what you will. Then George Pickens is the last one. Again, sell high. This is not because I don't like George Pickens. I'm actually a fan of George Pickens. I somehow came into this year with no George Pickens shares, and I'm kicking myself because of it. The reason I put him on the sell highs though is because CD Lamb is coming back, and I feel like the target share just is not going to be as bountiful as it was for him in the past 2 weeks. And on top of that, what we've seen in every single season of George Pickens' career is he has really nice stretches where he plays great football and everyone gets stoked on him, and then he kind of falls off a cliff and has weird emotional breakdowns and fights people on the field, that sort of stuff. I'm not saying that's necessarily what will happen again this year. I think that this is the best quarterback situation he's ever had, and there's reasons to like George Pickens, right? I'm not selling him for nothing, but I think that probably when CD comes back, he's more of like a mid-range to high-end wide receiver two, and you might be able to sell him for wide receiver one right now. I saw on Twitter like someone was like, actually, yeah, it was like a Twitter conversation I had this week. There's like some post that Underdog put out there like George Pickens is a top blank wide receiver in the NFL, and I said top 20, and I got like aggressively like shit talked at for saying only 20, right? And I was like, listen, like it's not that I'm not bought in on the player, which we only have a 6 week sample size of this better situation for him. So I don't know. I would be trying to move him in a piece to move up to get a wide receiver one if you can do it. But if you don't move him and you just have like a high end wide receiver two, I think that's fine as well. What do you think about all that, Yanni? I feel like we had some back and forth, but is there any burning things that you had on your mind?
Let me look through the names real quick. Yeah, Pickens, like I would sell. It would just need to be for something like really solid, you know. So like I would need to get into the next tier of wide receiver for me to move off Pickens. I'm a little less excited buying on Brees Hall than you are, and I'm a pretty big Brees Hall guy. I don't know. I feel like there's a little bit too much. I never like trading for someone and going, well, I hope he gets traded. That'll really make this trade a good trade. That's just a little weird to me, personally. And then Tyrone Tracy, I think on his own, dude, Cameron Scadaboo's running style is not health conscious. That gentleman does not play football in a health conscious manner. So like, I think Tyrone Tracy is a must roster if he's on your waivers, even just as a handcuff to Cam Scadaboo because of the way he plays. So no, good list, man. I'm with you on almost all of it. Okay, mine are a little more boring, a little more buttoned up. I did give you guys Eddie Pinheiro like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he turned out to be the kicker one since he's taken over for the Niners. I hope you went and got him. He's been like producing, dude. On my Eddie Pinheiro rosters, I've been rolling. Every week. I was like laughing about that. I got like 38 points from my defense and kicker this week in a couple leagues. But look, I'm a sensible fella. I like investing in traditional stocks and bonds and just buying the S&P 500 and taking my 8% a year, and that's kind of what I do with the waiver wire most years. This week I think there are a couple really sensible moves you can make for your fantasy roster. Harold Fannin coming off a 10-target game in which he led the league in targets, and Dylan Gabriel has been completely unwilling to push the ball outside of the boundaries. You're really seeing the receivers suffer as a result of that. Harold Fannin Jr., 10 targets, had a beat Njoku in points. I believe he is outscored Njoku. God damn it. It's freezing here. My nose is running. I believe he's beaten Njoku in points at least half the weeks, if not 4 out of the 6 weeks they played together. I know Njoku had that little breakout like last week where we maybe thought he was going to be the tight end. I just don't. I think the Browns want to feature their young guys. I think Fannon's a really good football player. I think Njoku's a candidate to get traded, and he's been nursing injuries for 2 weeks now and had to leave this game with injury multiple times. I don't know, for all those reasons, like to me, I think there's actually like a sneaky degree of league winning upside in Fannin here, even if Sanders ends up taking over it at quarterback. They have the highest percentage target percentage to tight ends in the league. They make a concerted effort to involve these guys. I think there's a chance Njoku gets traded. He's already not healthy. There's a lot of reasons that like I think Fannin should be on your team. I have one roster that's just in the dumps for tight end. I actually only have one. I only have one train wreck tight end roster this year, which is pretty surprising. It's in me and Ted's home league. And I just haven't, I've like been unwilling. I actually dropped Njoku over dropping Fannin. This was before his big week. And of course he went off the week I dropped him, but I was actually more willing to part with Njoku than Fannin just because I think I like what I've seen there and he's coming around. Roster him. For any tight end needy rosters, if you guys are really struggling, Isaiah likely had another quiet week. He has a bye this week. You probably won't even have to put in fab on him. You could try to wait till next week, but that becomes a riskier proposition, especially if they trade Mark Andrews in their bye week, which they've already traded a defensive player. It's not impossible that they do that. I've been prospecting a lot on Isaiah Likely. Again, when I had rosters that were tight end needy, I've actually churned and burned the waiver wire or traded enough that I'm pretty good in all but one of them, and I'm rolling with Fannin and Zach Ertz are going to be my tight end room in this league, and I'm just going to live with that rest of the season. But Isaiah Likely, if you need a tight end, like to me, this is another one. And look, you don't know, like, is this league winning upside going to come to fruition? We don't know that, but you're capturing the upside when you roster guys like this. If Mark Andrews moves, we have seen 20 plus point per game upside out of Isaiah Likely with Lamar Jackson. They are now going to be in a situation where they are passing way more than they ever have in the Lamar Jackson era because of how bad their defense is, right? And then you have a situation where Mark Andrews is gone for the first time in Likely's career. Could he see 8 or 9 targets with Lamar for the rest of the season? I think that is totally within his range of outcomes. To me, that's the sort of thing that may win you your fantasy league down the stretch this year. Tyjae Spears, not a whole lot to say there. I actually preferred just to drop him in a few leagues where like I prefer other guys at my running back 5, guys that I perceive as higher upside. So guys like Kendry Miller. I grabbed Tyler Algier in a few leagues over Tyjae Spears. I grabbed Blake Corum in a few leagues over Tyjae Spears. I just prefer guys like that I think could really win you your league if they hit. With Tyjae, what are we really chasing here with the Titans offense is like a 50-50 split at best with Pollard where he's going to get taken out of the red zone, but he did get 7 points in half PPR last week. I think if you're on a roster where you're really struggling at running back, I have seen some wacky starts this year. I've made a few myself. I flexed Kendry Miller one week this week, which is just humiliating to do. Right. So if you're in that position, sure, go pick him up. I think he will get enough work moving forward. His workload stepped up significantly from the first week back to the second week back. Maybe Pollard gets traded. I don't know how likely that is, but I think in full PPR, he's a good emergency start. And then the last one, this one I am adamant about though, fellas. I do want you guys going out there and maybe even dropping depends how needy your roster is at wide receiver. I would be willing to go up to 10 or 12% fab. We're getting later in the year. There's not going to be a whole lot of guys like this, and that is Luther Burden III. He led the receiving core in receiving yards tonight. He did not lead in targets. He was 1 target behind both Odunze and DJ Moore, but he had the most receiving yards of the group. DeAndre Swift actually led the team in receiving yards. But this year, guys with 3.0 yards per route run in 2025, you have Jackson Smith and Jigba, Puka Nacua, and Luther Burden. That is the list of wide receivers that have produced 3+ yards per route run this season. And I know that a lot of these efficiency stats or these fantasy stats are really just repackaging production to make it sound like you found a predictive metric. That's very often what happens, right? Is fantasy points per route run. Well, yeah, the guys that the guys in the Puka Nacua role produce more fantasy points because they're the whole offense is designed to get him the ball as opposed to someone who's a secondary receiver. But this one is significant in the sense that he doesn't actually run a lot of routes. Luther Burden III is not out there for a lot. When he goes out there, he's being extremely productive on a per route basis. He's going out there and getting design plays. And then I actually had their box score in one of my things here. I don't actually think you need a DJ Moore trade or you need DJ Moore to fall out of everything completely. Look, the post-bye rookie bump for Colston Loveland constituted 3 targets for 2 receptions, 11 yards. You had Cole Kmet get 2 targets for 1 yard. And then you had, this is the one that I'm really looking at. Olamide Zaccheaus played a horrific game tonight. He dropped multiple passes, which caused punts. He got 6 targets. He produced 2 receptions for 24 yards, whereas Burden had a great catch and run, their biggest chunk play of the night besides the Swift play down the sideline, the reception. He had like a 30-yard catch and run. To me, it's more like I'm just looking for him to absorb the Olamide Zaccheaus targets out of the slot, which I don't know how he hasn't already, and I don't know how after tonight you can't replace him moving forward. So I think the worst case scenario for Burden now is he's going to take that role, and that gives him an upside of anywhere from 6 to 10 targets a game in a Ben Johnson offense where I think he's looked better than both DJ Moore, Olamide Zaccheaus. I think he's looked better than Kmet. I think he's looked better than Loveland. I think we're live here where he is their second best pass catcher on their team right now. And it's not that DJ Moore I think is injured, 1. 2, he's taking runs and snaps out of the backfield. So like, I don't know what's going on there. It's a usage thing a little bit with him, but if they're using him that way, it's because that's what Ben Johnson sees him as, I think. I think there's a world where Luther Burden is the second best pass catcher in Ben Johnson's Bears offense that absolutely slings the ball every week. They go out there firing. And I want that. I want that as my wide receiver 5 on my benches. I'm not saying it's going to for sure come through. I'm not saying it's going to be, they have a really nice schedule though. The next like 4 to 8 weeks is really, really nice. And like, so I went through and added Luther Burden last week. I'm sitting on him in a few places. Like I would encourage you guys to do the same. Just a quick related note. I think you can go ahead and drop Loveland. I'm not holding out hope anymore. Ted warned me coming into the year. I think Loveland's floor is 0. I didn't know if it was 0, but I thought you don't take a guy top 10 as the first pick of your era when you're the guy who pioneered Sam Laporta to a tight end 1 overall season as a rookie. You don't do all that to not use him. It appears they did all that to not use him. They just don't. He just doesn't get the volume. There's no Harold Fannin Jr. gets way better usage than
you got to get Cole Kmet involved, dude.
Jake Tonjes, way better usage than Darren Waller off a rap career and out of Kelsey Plum gets a way better percent. Theo Johnson, way outworks Varner on the Seahawks. Not even close. Or Gadsden, the Chargers kid, has 2 games with over 7 targets a game. I think Cole Kmet is sitting at 7 targets on the year, maybe 9 targets on the year. It's horrible. I love his college tape. I think he's a really talented player. I don't know why they didn't just take Tyler Warren. I'm confused about a lot of things they did with that. But to me, it's like so I think you have to pick. Are you going to sit on Luther Burden III or Loveland? Luther Burden has at least shown genuine top 3 on a per touch basis upside at wide receiver. He is right there with Jackson Smith and Jigba and Puka Nacua. He has been that level efficient when he touches the ball. So to me, that is like, I'm chasing that. I'm chasing it hard. Let's talk. We'll talk in 4 to 6 weeks, but like, as your wide receiver 5, please take that risk. Please take that risk. It's how we win championships. Speaking of how we win championships, a few trade targets. I would have told you 2 weeks ago that James Cook was absolutely unobtainable. I believe he's obtainable now. He's had like 11 points over the last 2 weeks. Ty Johnson was getting the entire 2-minute drill twice tonight against the Falcons. I think people are going to be absolutely terrified because James Cook has had usage issues before in the past. He doesn't look unhealthy to me. Doesn't look like they fundamentally changed their offense. It just looks like he got game scripted out a couple times. Maybe they didn't want to load him up with touches against 2 top 5 defenses in terms of giving up production to running backs. I don't know what it is. Ray Davis got the touchdown tonight in the red zone on a really nice play. He earned that one for sure. So I don't know. I'm not really worried. I'm sending things with packages primarily around Scattaboo. Like in all my Scattaboo leagues, I'm aggressively shopping Scattaboo for James Cook. And seeing what I can add to it. Obviously, you're not going to get it 1-for-1, but I certainly would be doing that. If you can, dude, you might be able to do Kyron Williams for James Cook and get a roster upgrade somewhere else because of how productive Kyron been. He's had I think 42 points the last 2 weeks in half PPR. Like you should be trying to make moves like that. I think I just like James Cook's upside a little more. He does have a tough playoff schedule, but I would be buying it. What do you think of buying James Cook right now, Ted?
I would be aggressively doing that. I think that
Yeah,
the Bills offense, like it's had the worst 2 weeks it's gonna have all season. Would
that's
would be my
yeah,
take on it, right? Like they get the Dolphins again, they get the Jets again, like their schedule, I just think James Cook is can't miss. For me, like if we were doing redraft, he's a first round pick for me, for sure. That's a
yeah.
player I want on my team.
Yeah, so you're attributing it more to Scott. Now, does it worry you at all? I believe they have New England, Cleveland, and give me a minute, I'll pull it up. I know they have New England, Cleveland, and what is the last team? Because I was actually looking because I've been sending offers like while we were doing our little prep for this. I was sending offers out. Yeah, my internet's slow, whatever. I can't pull it up, but it's New England, Cleveland. They have one more pretty tough, maybe Green Bay. Like they have kind of a tough schedule for the playoffs, but
I think
I,
James Cook is like matchup proof to me. Like I know that the production hasn't been like 20 points a week every week, right? But like if I have James Cook on my roster, he's not ever going out unless it's a
so
bye
that
or injury. That's it.
So they have New England, Cleveland, and Philly for their 3 games in the playoffs.
And Philly's kind of leaking a little bit. Philly's
Yeah, it's a
leaking
little
some oil.
yeah. But so okay, so yeah, I think though that is someone who just I want him. I want him on my rosters. One of my cells, ETN. If you could add a piece to ETN to get to James Cook, do it. Bill Krosky Merritt had 2 fumbles the last 2 weeks. We kind of thought he was breaking. He still, by the way, still has like 32 points the last 2 weeks in half PPR. But tonight was supposed to be his coming out party against a defense that's been extremely vulnerable to the run, and it didn't happen. He had 6 or 7 points, had a fumble, looked pretty bad in the rain. The last fumble at the end was on Jaden. It wasn't on him. He sort of tossed the ball loosely into his chest. But I think that is, to me, what I saw out of Bill was genuine RB1 usage. I saw them feeding him the ball in the red zone quite a bit. And I think I think you can go to him and be like, Bill's not the guy. You can go to his owner. You can say, Bill is not the guy. What can we work out? I think you might be able to get him as a throw in. Dude, go get Bill. If you can do Tony Pollard in a piece or whatever, or maybe even Tony Pollard 1-for-1 for him, I would do that. If you can probably do ETN for Bill and get a roster upgrade somewhere else. I would do that. I think you can get him kind of thrown in as a nothing. Jalen Warren. If you're worried about Jalen Warren's receiving usage and you can get over to Bill Merritt, I prefer Bill by a mile to Jalen Warren rest of season. If you can do like Woody Marks is still valued as like a top 32. I believe he's around 32 in ECR running back rest of season. And he might be. I actually think he's fine rest of season. But like if you can do a Woody Marks or Nick Chubb and add maybe a little something to it and get to Bill, do that. He just bombed on his first big week where he was supposed to get the workload. Like I know in one league, I'm going to send an offer of Isaiah Pacheco plus Charbonnet. I'll send Isaiah Pacheco and Charbonnet to try to get someone who's going to be an RB1 with a cake schedule rest of season on one of the best offenses in the sport. I'll do that all day, and you guys should too. And again, it does not show, and this week is not going to show the usage. He got like 20 touches. That's legitimate bell cow usage. That is really hard to find at the running back position right now, and it's legitimate bell cow usage attached to Jaden Daniels and the Skins, who are getting Terry McLaurin back. The offense is going to get healthier. The rookie receiver looks good. Jalen Lane, Debo's looked pretty good most of this year. Had a down night tonight, but like I like all that. That's all stuff that I want to be buying into, and I think you can get into it quite cheaply. More to come on that in a minute. Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is someone who, like, before he had his down game this week, I was sending out things like Pittman plus pieces for Devontae. I was trying to get. I would just do Lad McConkey 1-for-1. I prefer Devontae by a lot there. So like I would do Lad McConkey 1-for-1. If you can get, I prefer Lad to Zay Flowers. If you can add a piece to Zay Flowers and get to Lad, if you can add a piece to Worthy and get to Lad, absolutely do that. Underperforming assets who are underperforming wide receivers, you can trade for them. I think with Mike Evans coming back, there might be some excitement there. And to me, like Mike Evans' ceiling case is Devontae Adams right now. So like if someone's willing to move laterally or throw some stuff around it, I would prefer Devontae Adams to Mike Evans rest of season. Teteroa McMillan, and I covet Teteroa McMillan. I really do. I love Tet. He's one of my favorite players in the whole league. My most rostered player in the history of me playing fantasy was this year with Tet. But he just had a big 2-touchdown game, and there's so much excitement about him in fantasy. And Devontae had a down game. I think Tet's ceiling case is like what we saw out of Devontae the first 6 weeks. So it's like 13 a game with lots of red zone usage. That's what Devontae's been doing. If you can make that move, I would do it. And especially we probably have a week or two without Puka, and then Puka's injury, like they said, they're going to reassess after the bye. That just doesn't sound good. He had weird stuff in the offseason, then comes in and gets this, and he's had a history of missing chunks of time, like every year he's been in the league. There's that upside there too, that I think without Puka, Devontae has like top 5 weekly upside. Cortland Sutton, concerns with the Broncos offense notwithstanding, when he's on, you're getting like a low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2. I think Cortland Sutton's just a banger of a piece on your roster. If you can get like Devonta Smith has had a few good weeks, I would prefer Cortland Sutton to Jalen Waddle by a lot. Like if you could put something around there to move from Jalen Waddle to Cortland Sutton, it's close. Depends if you want to try for that second half of the year rookie explosion or not, but you could probably do Teteroa McMillan for Cortland Sutton or add a piece to him. I think you can think about that. If you want a safer bet, Cortland Sutton's a safer bet than Teteroa McMillan. I mean, that there's no two ways about that. I'm not sure how low I would go. Zay Flowers, I do prefer Cortland to Zay Flowers. I'm trying to think of all those guys in that range. Brian Thomas Jr. for Cortland Sutton. Who do you prefer there, Ted?
I probably prefer Cortland Sutton now, just because I feel like Trevor's such a limiter to BTJ. I think BTJ is a better player, but in terms of fantasy asset, I think Cortland might be just better for you.
Yeah, so ECR has Cortland at 13. It has Brian Thomas Jr. at 20. So, like Stephon Diggs and Quentin Johnston and Xavier Worthy and Deebo Samuel and Marvin Harrison Jr. If you can add a piece to any of that tier of receiver, DK Metcalf, any of those guys, if you could add one little thing to that and get to Cortland Sutton, I would do that. And I think you're not going to have a big window to do this. They have a really nice schedule rest of season. I want Cortland badly on my teams. I've been trying to buy him everywhere I can. I got told to go F myself trying to send AJ Brown for him. I would have done just AJ Brown 1-for-1. Take him. I'll take Cortland. And the guy goes, absolutely not. So, and let's see what ECR says. AJ Brown 17, Cortland's 13. They were close enough, but yeah. So that is someone though I'm buying on. Mike Evans for the second year in a row. Stacking trophies with Mike Evans last year. I'm planning to do it again this year. I am trying to buy Mike Evans. I just noticed his owners are really willing to part with him. He's going to start practicing again this week. He got high-end wide receiver 1 usage when Egbuka was out there, when Bucky was out there. He was still getting wide receiver 1 usage. It's because him and Bucky perform fundamentally different roles. They can totally coexist. Me wanting to buy Mike Evans has nothing to do with Egbuka's dominance. It's going to remain. Egbuka's probably the most talented receiver at this point in their careers. But Mike Evans serves a different role than he does. He serves the big-bodied X-receiver role, especially in the red zone, those back shoulder fades, and he goes deep a lot. I love Mike Evans. As a player, he's been so productive for me as a fantasy asset. I was absolutely shocked I was able to get him for Hunter and Ramondre Stevenson. That got me Mike Evans. If I could move off Michael Pittman, I'm moving off Michael Pittman all day for Mike Evans. I'm looking at ECR. Stephon Diggs, give me Mike Evans. That one's close, but I would. Quentin Johnston, prefer Mike Evans. Not even close. Marvin Harrison Jr., I prefer Mike Evans. Deebo Samuel, prefer Mike Evans. DK Metcalf, Mike Evans. Ricky Pearsall's really close. That's really, really close. I think Ricky probably – I think Ricky has such a crazy ceiling. I think I'd probably prefer Ricky there, but that's close. But like, dude, Devonta Smith, Chris Olave, Terry McLaurin, T. Higgins, Jordan Addison, Jamo Williams, Jacoby Myers, DJ Moore, Ridley. Dude, those are all guys. If you can add a little bit to those guys and get to Mike Evans, do that. Please do. I feel great about adding him. Look, he's re-injured the same hamstring like 5 times in his career. That is just going to be something you have to accept when you trade for him, that there's going to be an injury risk. But the upside is, like, I would not be surprised at all if we get like 2 or 3 weeks here of 20 plus per game out of Mike. And then for the rest of the season, we're getting like 13 to 16 a game with like 22 point, 25 point spike weeks like he has. I love it. I love it. I want them on my rosters for the stretch run. The last one. This is a buy low strictly, folks. Buy low. Do not pay market price. Terry McLaurin is extremely purchasable. So sports hernia, even if he had taken the full time off for the sports hernia, which I don't know why they wouldn't have just put him on the IR for this, it is 6 weeks. He injured it in week 3. So even if the sports hernia was a full blown torn sports hernia, it would have been until week 9. Week 9, maybe week 10, we would have seen him getting back to it. Looks like he's going to try to practice this week and maybe go, maybe not. We're in week 7. So it's been 4 weeks, and it's so maybe you have to wait another week or two or whatever. But to me, this is someone who I'm going to be buying on. The skins look extremely healthy to me. Deebo Samuel is produced as a high-end wide receiver 1 at points this year, or like a mid-range wide receiver 1 to a high-end wide receiver 2. Deebo Samuel tends to putter out as the season gets a little longer and his body takes a beating. Not always. He actually 2 or 3 years ago had that crazy explosion in the second half of the year. But just he's older, man. He's older and he's high mileage, and he's been getting smacked. He almost missed the game this week already. He came off pneumonia last year. He's been getting like workhorsed in the absence of Terry McLaurin. So I like Terry to be their primary weapon in the passing game for the second half of the year. They have some nice games down their schedule too. His playoff schedule is really good. I believe it's Dallas, Philadelphia, and I forget the last one. Yeah. So this is someone who I noticed people are really willing to sell on. They're willing to sell him for. I traded DJ Moore and Najee Harris before his injury for him. I traded DJ Moore and Jerry Jeudy for him. I traded Jameson Williams and Elick Iomanor for him. Deals like that are basically like bench fodder plus a wide receiver that hasn't cleared 10 points this year. If that's all you have to risk to maybe get a guy who performs like a top 15 receiver weekly for the rest of the season, I would be buying that. I would be aggressively buying that. What do you think of those buys, Ted? Which one offends you and which one's your most favorite of those?
None of them offend me. I mean, my favorite one is probably I really like Bill because I think that he's finally taken the RB1 role by the balls, right? And we just haven't. I mean, we had the Chargers week, but he came down off a down week. I think that he, especially if like Jaden gets a little more healthy, right? Terry comes back. Like that's a top flight offense that he has a stranglehold over the backfield on. And I think you can buy him for reasonable price now. So I like that. Terry freaks me out a little bit. If you can buy him for the deals you were talking about, I would still buy him. I just think that it's on the board that he just has the season from hell with the holdout plus the injury. But if you're getting him for peanuts, like you might as well add that upside. So I like them all, man. It's good.
Yeah. Okay. And then I've talked a lot. So just 2 quick ones to sell. ETN and Debo. ETN still has a really good yards per carry, but he's not getting as much. He actually had 5 targets this week, but it just seems like they keep really working Tootin in the red zone. And if ETN does not get his touchdowns, he's kind of a touchdown dependent RB2. He's more like an RB3 when he's not getting it. The last 2 weeks, he's been an RB3 because he hasn't been scoring touchdowns. He's still in the expert consensus rankings. I think he's 13th or 14th rest of the season. Maybe he slid back to 16, actually. I think he slid back this week to 16. Let me see. Yeah, 16. So to me, while he's still ranked as a high-end RB2, fringe RB1, that's kind of when I do want to go ahead and cash those chips out, I think. I'm like sending him a lot in offers. I'm even willing to like lose a trade, quote unquote, to get off of him. Just because I think there's an outcome here where they just decide they like Tootin more and they're rolling with him. There's an outcome here where he gets hurt. There's an outcome here where the Jags offense has been playing way above their skis and they just slow down a little bit. It's just been enough that like, and I think he's been good enough that I think you can really tear up. Like Kyron has been a really aggressive trade target for me with ETN, where I'm taking a bunch of pieces, I'm stacking it onto ETN, and I'm seeing, can I get to Kyron? Can you maybe get to James Cook if you put enough around him? I think that's totally possible. I mean, other guys like Judkins. Tonight, I actually missed out on an offer, but I did offer ETN plus a piece for Judkins. I would have actually done that. I would prefer Judkins rest of season to him. Who do you prefer there, Ted?
You know I prefer the big Q. It's my guy.
What about Javonte Williams versus ETN?
Javonte Williams.
Yeah, like that's a pretty decisive one to me. If you could, you're probably gonna have to add something nice to him. But if you can add a piece and get to Derrick Henry, prefer Derrick Henry
Yep.
to ET. Um, yeah, so like, I don't know if I would go this far because you would have to be willing to swallow quite a bit of risk. Omarion Hampton, I'm sure you could get a roster upgrade if you did ETN plus something, plus a wide receiver for like a better one of their wide receivers in Hampton, but understand you might be waiting 5 to 6 weeks for him to come back. I don't know if you want to do that, but that
And
is
Hampton might not even be the featured back by the time he
sure.
gets back.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's baked into his price right now. Like that's why he's very gettable right now. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would do that. But yeah, so that's all I've got. A lot of talking, but please, guys, be proactive. Right now is this amazing point in the year where a certain number of managers have decided their team's trash. And unless they do something, they're not going to get what they want. All of a sudden, this flurry of trades came through the free Tendies fantasy cluster of leagues the last few weeks. Like people have really been actively offering and like big offers, like some serious stuff has been put on the table. Um, I've been in discussion. I haven't been able to get anything, but I've been in talks for guys like Bijan Robinson. A few leagues had Puka Nakua put on the trade block this week. I saw Bucky Irving just got traded in one league. I've seen Omarion Hampton, Brock Bowers moving all over. People are willing to part with some pretty big. Ted was able to get Justin Jefferson. People are Saquon Barkley was put on the trading block in our home league. People are willing to put some pretty big stuff on the table that like to me they fall under the category of untradeable assets. I'm pretty surprised to see things that are being floated out there. I think you guys should try to go ahead and take advantage of it. So that's what I would just say is try to be extremely active right now. Send out a bunch of offers. Have people message you to go F yourself and that they're not stupid. That's fine, whatever. You have to go through a bunch of those before you find trades. And there are trades out there. People have been willing to and keep working at it.
Don't be afraid to be that Kevin James meme where he looks at
Yep.
the other guy condescendingly. Be that guy. Just do it.
Yep.
It's a numbers game, is Rafi would say. But yeah, that's going to do it for us. If you made it through the whole video, thank you. Please like, subscribe, hit the bell. It helps the channel out. Question of the day for the audience. Yanni, I'll let you have this one. I've had the last couple.
Who scores more by end of season, Charbonnet or Kenneth Walker the third?
Beautiful
Who else?
debate. I'm going to go with Ken Walker. I think Ken Walker does it. What do you think?
Okay. I would still bet Ken Walker, but it's close. It's close. Yeah, I think he does.
I'm glad you finally came around on that. And we'll see you guys for the head coach episode.